Stay standing because we'll have the flag salute.
Yeah.
If you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The meeting shall come to order. Okay, the agenda was put online, correct? So everybody knows what it is. Port's regular business administrative improvements. Travis, would you like to begin on some of that?
I had a chance to read the briefing.
I did. Did you? Okay.
Forward, regular business administrative improvements. We're dealing with some office billing cycle issues by changing our meeting, which was expected. Gazebo rentals continue to roll in. We're working on getting that banner. The banner will be ordered up, and having the water payments online has reduced the amount of phone calls we've had to process, which has been very helpful.
Perfect.
On the development side, our drinking loan contract still has not arrived, but we've got all the documentation we need that we're waiting on next steps from them.
Okay.
Talks with our engineer at West Sound Mike. Calculations are getting finished. We should have some greater information and possible connection capacity by the end of the week. And housing Kitsap, we still have that one-off contract that should be ready midweek, so that we can get them under contract for the work that they're looking to do here on phase 2 of their project. Port pier repairs. We made that 10% down payment so that we can get on the schedule, and actually there was some measurements that got misplaced. So they were out here this morning getting those measurements again.
Great.
So we should be able to see ourselves on the schedule hopefully by the end of the week, because they just need to know how long it's going to take the fab shop to do some of the items.
Great.
And then I had a chance to talk with Corey extensively this morning to make sure and just reaffirm some of the particular items of importance.
Did they have a start date? Did you say?
No, they're going to be giving us one.
Okay.
Soon. And I don't imagine it'll be too long. We're going to see those repairs done before the greater part of our weather shows up. Another thing that he had mentioned is that that kind of didn't really get noticed before is that all of our tubs on the launch float were adhered with the galvanized connectors.
Sure.
And that's part of the reason why we're losing so many of them, because over the years they rust out completely and break off. So they only use stainless now. So I told them, I was like, listen, we're going to go through the expense of replacing those 9 tubs there, which we've already gotten the bid. We really have to have the rest of the tubs resecured with stainless steel, correct? So I just made the command decision to say, go ahead and make sure you do that.
Yeah, great.
Oyster House, I did give you an email with those architectural firms to contact.
Oh, yes, right.
So that will be, that's our next step before we can go back to the building department and get our permit reissued. Port safety and security, Don has got about 2/3, might be a little generous. I'd say he's closer to half done with getting that old bumper rail done. We want to get that done before we have Commissioner Curtin come out and help us do all the new treads, because that could take one day, where this bumper rail is going to take Don 4 days. An extra hand isn't going to make it go that much faster. Because of how it goes together. And draft budget discussion we'll be having today. And the Case Inlet Fisheries Task Force, we had that joint meeting here last Thursday. And, just give me some feedback on how you felt about it and next steps. My suggestion is next steps really need to be dissolving the task force as a task force and moving them into their official entity, which they choose to be, because then the port can assist them with projects. So we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, my 2 cents on that. I mean, kind of jumping a little ahead, but then we can get into the preliminary budget stuff. But the Case Inlet Task Force, I really appreciate. I haven't been really involved in it, but I really appreciate them. You know, what was the chair's name again? What was his name? Mike. Yeah. He did a really great job and laying out to what the task force really needs to do. They have a few options of creating their own entity, as you had said, which anyway, it went well. Okay. Anything else?
If you'd like to discuss or talk about any of those priorities, you're welcome to.
Anything else, Commissioner Sheridan?
No.
Okay. So let's go ahead and get into the preliminary draft budget.
Okay.
Okay.
Question.
Yes.
Is there any, because it's gonna take a little while to go through probably.
Yeah.
Is there anything for the zeros that need to be addressed before?
We didn't have anything in the briefing.
Did you guys want to talk about something here, or we just want to sit for their duration? Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That's cool.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Let's dig in here. Travis, would you like to start us out on it? Or?
Well, Jeff and Aaron and I spent better part of 3 hours Friday kind of going over what preliminarily we had written down and what we felt like was more closer to a preliminary draft budget, which we will have to approve come our meeting on the 9th.
September?
Yes.
Really? Okay.
Oh, yes. It has to be set as a preliminary
Yes.
before the September 15th.
Correct.
For RCWs.
Okay.
I would take a moment to kind of go through the 3-page sheet. It's the draft worksheet. And then we split apart the revenue and the expenses of the water system, trying to make it a little separated from the general fund. And then the other documents are kind of a separate talking point altogether.
Basically, two of them are cash flow extensions, depending whether what the board decides to do with respect to directorships, things of that nature, as well as the different projects and different things. There's different ways this can fall depending on what the board
That's
chooses.
what these two are.
Yes, one you'll see. The last time you saw the report, we had more red coming down the meaning where we got under 20,000 in the general fund. We have less now because of some readjustment of salaries and lining them up better, and then also salaries increased about four or 5,000 to the water fund because of time that's being spent there. Don't know that that's consistently where you'll be, but
okay,
but that's where it is this year. So I had to lay it out for next year that way. So it's better than the last time you saw it. But the most optimistic is it's still 4 years out before you can consider any projects, 3 to 4 years. If the board elects to go different directorship or more like what we had in the past, then it extends it.
Right.
And if there are any legal issues, for whatever projects or any new projects that aren't covered by grants, that extends it.
Yeah. Okay.
And that what's laid out there is basically your general expenses, your general payroll currently, your insurance as it is going forward, and paying back the $40,000 that the general fund borrowed from the water fund.
Oh, okay.
And at the interest rate, at least Travis told me that was supposed to be set at.
What is that interest rate?
It's like
7.4%.
Ouch.
Yeah. But
But we're paying ourselves back.
Yeah.
So,
but you're still close to all of the state rule and the standards that the Treasury Department sets for what they would borrow. That would be if we borrowed from the treasury department.
Well, that's, yes, I'm sorry, I was thinking IDD because you're
Yeah,
paying
that's
yourself
what
back,
We're not talking IDD fund.
I know.
Anyway.
I know. Yeah.
Okay.
I think on the ID fund, just those two.
Right.
Okay.
So let's see what else can I tell you.
And there will be a resolution on the table for that coming up
Okay,
in a regular meeting. That's been planned by the office for some time.
okay.
So what else can I say? Just like extrapolating from where we are today to the end of the year, we're within a couple thousand of what's on that chart, on that spreadsheet showing the flow out through the next X number of years. It's a little bit, I'm not sure why there's some bigger differences out a year, like 17K next year. So I don't know what that is yet. I haven't had time to evaluate why that is. But the biggest thing is where we are this year to next year. That's what I focused on.
Okay.
Believe me, I'll tell you once I figure. I'll let you know.
Okay.
You're not gonna fly into this blind anyway.
Yeah, no. So we have an anomaly of 17,000 you're trying to figure out.
But that's at the end of next year, and I'm
okay.
not, and at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, and I'm not sure because we corrected some things.
Okay.
And I have, I only have so much time to
Thank you, Jeff.
Calculate through what's triggering what along the way.
Okay.
One of the issues with the general fund, we'll start with that one, is that we need to get the classifications. You're seeing only a summary here because we do not want to burden you with all 300 categories. Yes. And there was like that whole green area there.
Yep.
That's level 2, meaning there's a classification and a bunch of detail under that. We do not want to, at this point of the game, say, here's all the detail. The biggest thing, and the numbers off to the side, to the right, are where we were in 2024. So so anything that was exceptionally large, one way or the other, either income or revenue.
Can you show me what you're looking at there?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
I'm looking at the same one.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure. Thanks.
So, like for example, you see there the Allyn Marina. Well, we budgeted 6,200 this year. I believe it's going to come in a little higher, but looking at once the dock is fixed and what's going on, not quite to pre-pandemic, but not, something in between. That's where that puts that. The North Shore, it's a little bit less, as far as revenue. It's what looking at what's coming in, what's going through the parking lots, and you only have so much more that you can do on the pier there. So the other change down there, the water fund, that reflects the insurance, the extra 4,000 or 5,000 that's related to labor.
Extra labor rather than 15%, the 25. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so a lot of the expenses are 15, but there's some peculiar ones that are different.
Okay.
So for example, insurance one, because of the value of your asset of the water system versus the value of the rest of your assets of the port, comes out close to 25%. So that is 25%. The insurance goes to the water fund.
We can't average everything. There's certain things that cost.
Where we have data, it's like the electricity, the copier, those kind of things. It's like, don't get into the nitty gritty, just 15%. What else was I saying? Aaron's time. Okay, you'll notice that the gross number's higher this year. Well, you may not see because it's only on the professional services, probably on the revenue or expenses. So you only see the summary. And it looks less, but this would be the second page, page 207. And there's not 7 pages.
Okay.
The reason it's 7 is there's worksheets off to the side, and Excel does not make it simple to.
Okay.
I understand that.
So like down there again, the blue is water, the green is general fund. down there where it says professional services, or I can't remember which one she's under, but you have her whole time gets billed to there, and then the water fund reimbursed.
Okay.
But in that particular case, and you don't have a detail for that, but roughly 2/3 of her time is reimbursed from the water fund, and 1/3 general fund. And the background to that is tallied up the number of transactions you do in the general fund, tallied up the number of transactions you do, generally speaking, in the water fund.
Yeah.
The general fund has all kinds of breakdowns that you do an allocation of ledgers. So when you have an expense and you allocate to different things, whereas in the water fund, there isn't all that. You're sending out the bill, but then you get the payment. And so you process the payment.
Mm.
So all in all, they're kind of equal,
Mhm.
but better than at least 2/3 of it's water related. It may be a hair bit higher, but that's what we conservatively said. Last year we split it half and half. This year I'm saying it's 3/4 or 2/3 water and 1/3 general fund. I increased the amount not because you said so or anybody said so, but from a logical point, from the standpoint that you had an average of, I want to say roughly around 95 transactions monthly with all funds, and now you're around 130.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's not even, it's not as much as what the difference is between 130 and 95, but it is somewhat higher and based upon that kind of ratio.
So Jeff, if I do the fuzzy math with the revenue versus the expenses in 2025, just shy of 50,000 is where we end up. Is that correct? When I look at the green being the revenue, and then going down to the next page, expenses.
Yes, and if you look at the very top there, see where it says in the year balance, 47,000. See there? The top of the first page.
47.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
right
that's
there.
where you did. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Gotcha.
I didn't want you to have to sing.
Okay,
I wanted you to have to
all right.
not to sing here.
Gotcha.
I should have put that together, but
No problem.
I see. All right.
And this is that number that I was saying early on in that other spreadsheet where when you look at cash flow, it seems to be a higher number. If you look at December 31st, 2025 on that one sheet, it'll be a higher number.
We just gotta stay super disciplined and stay to the plan.
Right. It can be all worked out.
Yeah.
Okay. But the port really has to, in my judgment, all the RCWs where you can kill projects and park them, indefinitely do. You don't have wiggle room for the next few years. And then going forward, I mean, I don't have any problem with the port entertaining, other projects. But when you look at other projects, you really need to look at how it's funded and how it's compensated and pays for itself. Because if you
Gotcha. Some of them are matched.
As an example, you get a grant, and let's just say no match. Just say you get 100% grant, which is the best of all worlds. Okay.
You still cost us.
Okay, so great. You got it. Now what?
There's administrative fees,
design.
there's maintenance.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. And we just don't have that wiggle room. We're not putting any in this next year's budget. We're not putting any money really away for capital facilities within the general fund, meaning the gazebo, the docks, anything.
Unless we had some killer opportunity that was gonna clearly create revenue, and have be in the the black all the time. But yeah, I'm not going to be very excited about moving on any more projects for a while.
Aaron posed the question, there's got to be a way to get ahead of this, and I said, well, you got to remember, I'm looking historically. You remember there's years the port did nothing.
Right.
I'm not saying do nothing, but what I'm trying to say is, budget-wise, don't entertain anything new, or if you're entertaining it, go through the process and then just vet it publicly. I'll, give my 2 bits as far as if you can't tell whether it reconciles out, I'll give 2 bits to tell you whether it does or not, financially.
Yeah, I'm just super focused on doing what we do already better.
Well, and on mine is get what we've got
Yeah.
done. Oyster House, get it done,
Yeah.
get it operating.
If this was a business, okay?
Yeah,
For profit, okay? You cut.
sure.
So as an example, and I'm not
We
saying, no, you have not. You'll hear what I mean. You understand. When you're running a business, you might have a division that's messed up. You either sell it or cut it or mothball, okay? So to extrapolate that to the port, as an example, if you had an oyster house, we're getting all the grants from all the promises and all the different things,
Right.
you'd cut it.
Yeah.
You would cut Sweetwater because I'm talking now from a business, not from all the rules and regs, you know,
Right.
for what you got.
Okay.
But as an entity, that's how you would do it.
Yeah.
And that would get you up faster.
Yeah.
And out of the muck and mire so they could, you know, live another day and start looking at new projects.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you.
So that's why I say it that way.
Well, I know, but we really can't cut the Oyster House. That has been sitting there too long.
The reason, yes, I'm only smiling because I remember way back when, when I testified. But it is what it is, okay? So I understand that and accept that.
The others, sure, maybe, but
Okay, but anyway,
Yeah.
you get the drift there.
yes.
So anyway, we adjusted her pay up. So it's like 800 a month. It's like 1064 in this budget.
Okay.
Okay.
You know, the board has to decide that. I know you want to stay tight, but I can't logically say ask somebody to do more steps.
No,
Except people who
I'm
volunteer.
good with that. Yeah.
But even they have a limit.
Yeah, that's right.
So, but anyway, that gives you an idea what's being reimbursed by the general fund. So there's a couple things, like say insurance, her pay, a couple other things that are a little bit different ratio than the 15%.
There's also the cost of living raises too, which are going to be variable from year to year depending on how the commission would choose to approve cost of living raises.
The cost of living in that floor. Oh, wait, right. She's making notes, so.
No, that's all right. I'm listening. That's fine. Just writing down what everybody's talking about.
Yeah. The cost of living related to salaries is basically put in there across X number of years, basically 3.8%. That's what it is now currently. For the next. Yeah. That's all I can do.
2.8?
No, 3.8. Yeah. That's gone up.
Well, it's actually gone down.
Yeah, actually last year was like 6 or 7%.
Oh, was it really? Oh, well, I didn't give anybody.
Because the inflation was so bad.
Yeah.
The other thing is in here, because the board, background. When you're creating a budget, it would be nice to have some on the board, some general policy statements. We're kind of having the budget form this, and then the board figures out, which is kind of somewhat backwards.
Right.
And I'm not hung up on that, but I'm just saying that that's the case. So, for example, I'm making a decision on this, which you have to make the decision on the compensation of the commissioners. It's because you elected not to take your stipend, you know,
right. We're not
this year. Paid. Next year, it's in there, so you know. So because there's been no statement.
Sure.
And so I'm having to make some assumptions, and I bounce them off Travis, but you know, just like the cost of living, like a lot of different things, we just.
My intention is to not get paid for the duration of my term.
Right, but I'm not asking for that at this moment. But if that's the direction, and you want to incorporate it in the budget, which I recommend, then you know we just need to have that front and center. What else about the general fund? You notice I put down the side because there's a lot of differences there between 2024 and 2025. So when you look at your expenses, you can see the administrative side came down a little bit. About 4 or 5%.
Where are you right now, Jeff?
Second page 2 of 7.
Okay.
So see on the right, there's more even notes to the side, but I tried to sum it up so that we could just, focus. So for example, the payroll was estimated to be around 211, but it was ends up being around 218. But next year it's going to be around 210. And that was the other thing. Aaron's got a task to get it's one thing to have the bars, but you have to have the definitions between them the same. We had some issues in the ledgers where she's calling it one thing and I'm calling it another. Okay. And so, for example, on one hand, things were consolidated where I broke them out. And on the other hand, she went granular and broke out things to the nth degree, and we never did that. Okay. So, for example, salaries got broken out to the nth degree, meaning there was stuff going to the North Shore, stuff going to the water fund, stuff going to. Okay. That confused the whole thing, trying to figure out where we are because of the compensation from taxes, retirement. It gets really messy. That's why, I proposed last year to keep all that happening in the general fund, keep track of it, and have the water fund or other funds pay for it. Okay. I mean, it's nice to know, but man, trying to do a budget with it is a pain in the where. So, does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. And stop me where if it doesn't line up with either your thinking or what.
No, I'm just trying to follow you on what this is and how we can.
So she's going to have to
go ahead.
Re-render these so that they line up with this. If we're going to use this, I said I can go either way, terminology wise. Right. But we got to get them the same.
Just have to talk and have the same language.
Right, and then we found a couple places where they got totally in the wrong group, or another place how I can't remember exactly. It was like split or double counted. It was double counted.
Yeah, there was a couple of double counted ones.
Where?
I can't remember right now.
It was,
there's about 350 little categories here, and there's little battles with all these different things, and so 350. It's not a big number, but when you're trying, I'll remember a number of them, but not all of them. And then if that's an issue, no problem. Just let us know. And
so is that mistake being made because when you put it in there, it automatically populates in a couple different places?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. It's all right then.
I know from accounting systems in the past why that would occur.
Yeah.
But I don't know on the Springbook. And I'll say it straight up. I'm not happy with Springbook.
No, I'm not either.
But we'll work it through.
Well, it would cost us more to change. So
well, in the last 12 years, at least since 2012, we have yet to have a consistent accounting system more than a couple of years.
Right.
And it makes it really hard to figure out what the heck's going on.
Are we stuck with that because of the government?
No,
we're not stuck with it at all. But we've invested a lot of time learning how we're going to adjust this budget to that information. We would have to do the same thing with a different system.
Well, yes and no, right? So I would always be open to making things better. It's kind of like let it go.
I think, first of all, rule 101 with systems. Okay, learned a long time ago. First, work the system you have until you understand really what's going on. And I'd recommend. I mean, there's changes I can see right now, but I'm not recommending it. Just watch it through, get through it, and then start the process of evaluating other approaches.
Yes. I consider that a longer term objective.
Right.
Well, even with Springbrook, it was Scott Cooper, the fire department worked with them. And so they worked well with governmental agencies.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we even changed it.
Okay, let me give you an impression.
Sure.
An example or an impression?
A budget impression as an example. And I'm trying to think of the politically correct way to say it. One has to be aware that when you look at other entities using the same system, it may or may not be the best choice. The reason I say that is I made a comment about something about extrapolating for grants and what have you. And nobody knew anything about it in that side of the fire district, which is fine. It doesn't bother me. Then I did some checking myself and said, oh, there is some stuff. So that I've learned a long time ago with systems, people will learn to a point and then they'll stop learning. For whatever reason, you know, either just, you know, making it easier, whatever. I'm always surprised how far you can actually take a system, bad, good, or indifferent, and go a lot further than they ever talked about. And I've seen that over and over and over. And it would be, and I'm sure it's no different with Springbrook. That's why I recommend changing. Just, it can account, it can work through it. It's not maybe perfect, but we can at least, you know, we'll get to the point where the board can see before you approve bills where you are, because that was one of the big things you couldn't see from there where you were. I mean, as an example, technically speaking, correct me, Travis, if I'm wrong, but at the end of the last run in the middle of August, technically, I think you only had $1,000 in that water fund. Technically, even though it looked like you had 130 or whatever it was in there.
Yeah, because of the refunds that we had to do.
Oh, yes.
And then these set aside ARPA funds.
Yes.
That we do have some room to account for some of our previous expenses, being able to reimburse some of that money, but we still have to provide that on paper.
But technically,
right.
This moment, well, I mean, as of 2 weeks ago, there was only $1,000 in margin. Not the end of the world, don't worry.
No, at least it's not negative, right?
No, I get it, but what I'm trying to point out is an example.
Yeah.
And some of the expenses that we paid out last month will be reimbursable from the drinking fund loan. It's just that technically we haven't been able to do that yet.
Yeah.
So we're just in that real solid, like, no extra things right now until we get that solidified. And even when we do, anything that comes in extra, we need to be putting away for the future of the system.
Okay. So what other questions we might have with the general fund? Because the water will get a little bit more granular here.
Well, I need some time to digest.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And I'm not asking to make decisions, but I mean, I'm trying to crank this out and finally get it to him Saturday night. Because we met Friday night or Friday afternoon. Because I did my part Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, you get the drift.
I do.
So I'm not trying to put the pressure that way too. What I'm really trying to say is, you know, if there's anything that hits you right this moment, let's put it on the table and talk about it, because I'm now really close to it. And so I kind of remember, you know, I don't remember where the double count was. It was around $700 or something like that, a double count. But, you know, almost anything you ask me between the two of us, for sure, we can almost answer. So, but the water fund's, you know, a different animal too. So when we get to that, so let's, anything you're thinking about the general fund?
Your work is remarkable.
Yeah, greatly appreciate this.
Working with Aaron, like you have, even gives it more of a more substance, you know, just dealing with the real numbers.
Cool. So you've gone out to 31.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I had to originally.
Yeah.
Because of what our numbers were.
Yeah.
Because even after the bond was paid, you were tight that first year.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't really till 2031 that you could actually entertain doing something.
Yeah.
It's different.
I see that.
But it's better.
What is the blue? I'm sorry. What do you mean by the blue?
When you get older, 2031 is not very far away.
Are we talking?
This is the estimated cash flow. And you have them periodically in blue. Does that mean they're the negative, like the red, or did you have a special purpose for that?
Okay.
Cash flow, estimated cash flow draft.
So that correct.
Yes, I know, but this one is
legal and executive, which I just said out of the way for now, but this is actually typical one. Okay, so the blue numbers, don't worry about that. It was something very after.
Oh, so that doesn't mean anything.
Those blue numbers are like our highest, you know, gross receipts.
Okay.
And it's just we see the most money in the summer.
Gotcha.
So it's just
Okay.
kind of to highlight that.
Just as long as I know what that was all about.
Yeah, the green, it's there, 2029
Yeah.
March.
Mhm.
And that's when it can really, it kind of start to say, okay, we've made it through the valley of shadow of death.
Okay,
And we can start, you know, peeking
building,
ahead.
yeah, building a little bit, okay.
Yeah. And then, and as you can see, 2030, it's bigger, it's larger. So
That's basically the next year after we finished paying off the bond.
Yes.
and then the light pink just in that little one bar there, just have a note to say that's like in 2028. It's not tight, but you just clear by about 47,000. I recommend not taking on anything. Don't look beyond our existing project because you've just cleared the hurdle.
Okay. Talking 2028?
Yeah.
Just clearing the
Second
hurdle, yeah.
page, yeah.
The other chart, just again, we don't have to go over it, but the one says legal executive. Decisions have to be made by the board which way you're going to go with the executive director at some point in time.
Okay.
Okay. Also, decisions have to be made. Maybe not. Maybe there could be ways to mitigate it. But when it comes to legal, there's always a way.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm getting at. In other words,
I do.
I don't know what's going to pop. I don't know who's going to push where or what little thing is going to, I mean, Ken mentions to me and shows me the link or, the issue about, the penalty to somebody.
Yeah.
On the asbestos. Well,
somebody's a good term.
Yeah. The problem is, if there's a problem, which way are they going to go? Even if, in my opinion, I guess just opinion, even if it's proven that Hood Canal is the one liable and all those kind of things, and say there is a claim, the port inadvertently is going to get dragged into it a little bit to some degree. Not because they're a named party or anything, just because they're going to have to participate because, the property and all that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's going to, even with, at the best situations where the port's not really having a fee, or, they're going to have somebody legal there to make sure that the port isn't getting pulled into something that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
It's really not.
Gotcha.
We're not really the target of contention there either.
Right. No.
No, I know what you mean.
But unintended consequences.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I like that. Exactly.
You're there, and like it or not, technically speaking, insurance, people look at the port maybe the deeper pockets. It doesn't mean they're going to get anything.
Right.
But time takes money, and
that's right.
You know the problem. So anyway, I have asked me to give a summary at the end of this because I got a summary line for the whole thing.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
And you're gonna be fascinated by it.
Okay.
And all the parties are here, so this is good. So.
All right.
Okay. So are we then ready to go to the water?
Sure. I am.
I'm ready.
Okay.
And I mean, I'll go over anything you want on general, but and then from here on out, so if I understand this correctly, if you need more details, you'll give them details, but then I'm going to get some data to create a version that's going to be the preliminary for your September meeting. So something the commission has to do here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, you need to, if you're going to change something.
Yeah, I just, any feedback that you want to see changed, you give it to me.
Because
and then we will
at this point,
it.
It's not that I want to be in the middle of this. Don't get me wrong. I got 1,000 other things to do other than this. Believe me.
I was going to call you and bug you a little bit, but I thought I'm just going to let what you're doing play out.
That's fine. And I'm really open to it. If you want to do it, I'll tell you straight up what it is. Okay. And I think by now through this process that I'll tell you good, bad, or different how it is. Right. So, and then you have to make the decision. But all I'm saying is if there's questions, fine. If he's fine with it, call me. But you need to get him the update because I don't want this to come back and say, this is Jeff's budget.
No,
for the port.
One way or the other.
Which I know some people in the community just do not,
Whatever version of this, we're gonna take ownership back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, feed it, then I'll reproduce, with the changes and then have it there for you to adopt. Okay, moving on to the water. Before we get into the nitty gritty, well, I guess it's all nitty gritty. There's an expense sheet, there's a revenue sheet, and then there's the capital facility sheet. Okay. Big picture. Because of some changes of different things and some additional costs that are going into having to create these contracts and things, it's aggravating the bottom line, of course. So what do I mean? What do I mean by that? Well, I think on the expense sheet on the last page. On the last page, which says 303.
Yeah.
You'll notice kind of the bottom there, there's some summary numbers. These are just notes of mine. But I'm going to give you the big picture. Right now, with rates for 2025, you're going to be short $5,800 some odd dollars.
Okay.
Part of that, we would have been in a positive, but part of it, two pieces that are driving it up. One, there's more labor going into it than originally thought.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can be optimized, but we're not at that point yet. Just what is. Yes, you got a question.
Yeah, you're on page 2 of 3, right?
2 of 3, 3 of 3 of the expense.
Oh, 5826. Okay, got it.
Okay, so basically, expense wise, you got about 93, almost 94,000. Sales wise, this is water sales, not connection fees or anything. Okay. You're there. Here's one problem with that.
Yeah.
You have some additional expenses coming on the legal because you're trying to get contracts because of things and rules not followed and policies from the past.
Yeah.
So your past is killing you. Like always, our past always helps or hurts us depending on what it is.
Yeah. You
have 4,000 or 5,000 more happening on the labor side. And you had a little bit more repairs. I don't see you having another pump, a meter, a few things, but a little gun shy. So we left some stuff in there, but that's just basically the year in, year out expenses and the different things. That's where you are. Okay. So
go ahead.
So technically you cannot adjust your rates lower because you will have 80 users. Okay, so in the back of your mind, for simplicity, every time you add a user, you add 1,000 to your bottom line. So if you have 6 more users, you'd be break even.
Gotcha.
I see.
Would the labor to do all that, would that still be?
It's minor at that point.
Okay.
It might be 7.
Okay.
But you get the drift.
Question on this one. The 75 and the 98. What are those? Are those 2024? What are those for? Page 3 of 3.
Yeah. It's a different color line.
Okay.
So say that which number that was what was happening in 2024.
Okay. That's what I need.
So obviously in one respect you're doing better.
Yeah.
But you're still short.
Yeah. Okay.
So you kind of have that general thought process in your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now for the next biggie. You have roughly 1.2 million dollars worth of assets, okay? They have everything from 10-year, 15 to 50-year life, depending what we're talking about. The tank, valves, pipe, whatever. The port cannot totally depend that you might get grants or loans or what have you on these different things, but especially grants. So as a water system, you're trying to make this fund itself and not have to draw from other people. I mean, that's the objective, and provide a service. Okay, so with the 1.2 million dollars of current assets you have, when you extrapolate that, forgetting that we haven't put any money in the past away, okay? But just pretend we're starting today and going forward. That's what that other page is. It's real fine. The bars are real space tight.
Just right here.
Yep.
You look down, there's a gray line going across.
Yep.
So it says monthly ERUs $20.59, and that's based upon the 88 users.
So that's what should be added if we were to
Totally be
sufficient.
Yes.
You'd have to be putting away 21.7.
I don't recommend doing that in any way, shape, or form. You will cause a riot.
Yeah, well,
okay.
Yeah, I get that.
So now, just my observation.
Yeah.
Not 1 in 10 water systems does that. Maybe 1 in 50.
Really?
The county hasn't.
Even Belfair Water?
I haven't looked at theirs.
I know I pay a lot.
I know, but they eat up a lot.
Okay.
They grind through money pretty aggressively.
Sure.
If nothing else, through the loans and things for that pipe and what have you, they had to replace.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. Have they ever told you when, at what point that rate will go back down?
Oh, well, no. Of course not.
I think it's
Yeah, well, so far it stayed the same. The base rate's the same.
What's your rate at now?
77, 70.
Yeah, ugly.
Yeah, that's the commercial. I think it's 60. So
No, it's not. It's not commercial.
Oh, that's the residential.
Yeah, it's everything.
She's a user, so she.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was.
No,
But what if you? But doesn't it depend on your use?
Well,
that's the base rate.
That's the base.
Okay.
Then you
So
go
if
up from
there's
there.
more,
Okay.
yeah, if it's more than that, then believe me, I've spent thousands of dollars if you get a leak, right? And they don't really reimburse you either.
I got a question.
Well, they did help me the last time, a lot. So kudos to them. Thank you.
So just so I understand what the under professional and technical services, 100% water fund.
Okay.
You got, can you explain what you mean by non-billable and billable? Like
Billable.
I mean, I know what it means, but I don't know
No, I get
it's
it.
listed that way.
And I'm sorry, I did not have time to define all the different assumptions and things.
Okay.
You know, normally if you have a staff, you prepare all your assumptions and, you know, so that everybody can read them and know what's going on.
Okay.
Okay, so billable is basically when you hire the engineer to look at normally like a KidSAP housing, or you have them look at mine when they do my extension.
Okay.
Where you could charge the user maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so technically speaking, the billable number that's there for the services is a wash because the number you put on one side is the number on the other side that you're getting revenue.
Okay.
So it doesn't impact your rates one way or the other. It looks like it does. But that's why there's a separate table down the bottom to exclude that. Now the billable, so the non-billable ones, but 100% water fund are just saying, hey, none of that's the general fund. It's all 100% water fund. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when you're creating a contract, a generic extension agreement, that's there.
That's a little confusing for me.
I understand.
All right, because I'm trying to figure out what we're putting into our water fund as legal expenses for coming out of this year and into 2025. Like, what are we going to figure?
Well, but there's two different. There's what you do for somebody else, and there's what you do for the board.
Yeah,
and that's what the break is.
Yeah. Okay. Like, what is it for 2025?
If you want a different definition, just shoot me a definition, and I'll.
No, I'm not looking for that. I'm just like, what is the bottom line we're figuring into the 2025 for legal fees for the water side? That's all.
But billable or recover.
What's it gonna?
I could change the term.
Okay.
Recoverable versus billable. Recoverable fees.
Yeah,
that would help. That would help me.
If we're being paid on extensions, we can recover those fees.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying, because some of our grant monies is covering that.
The non-billable stuff is stuff that's coming out of the ratepayers, what the ratepayers pay as stuff that we pull in.
Well, see, what I'm looking for is just, I realize what you're trying to do with that, is try to help us mitigate, I guess, that expense. but I'm just curious, what is the bottom line that we're gonna budget for 2025, or what's the
Right.
suggested amount?
Right, okay, the bottom line, what we're gonna budget for financial and professional services is 13.5.
Oh, okay. But that's okay, for that,
So, okay, so this is.
I'm trying to separate.
Remember, the darkest line is the summary of the whole fund.
Yeah, I get
The
it.
next darkest line is the summary level 2, which is a kind of summary, and then either white or light, or very light blues.
I'm wondering if we can afford council to help redo our policy. That's what I'm going with. That's what I'm coming from.
Travis and I haven't had a chance to talk about it.
Okay.
I thought about it over the weekend.
All right.
These numbers and what have
Because
you.
it is part of this conversation. I'm trying to have a conference call with Tim so we can see, is this going to be a couple year, a year, or 5-year plan? You know, like, so that's all. I'm just trying to break it up.
They're supposed to produce us that scope.
That's going to help us. Okay.
Okay, so example, you're creating a custom agreement for Kitsap Housing. Unfortunately, that will only be for Kitsap Housing. That time is focused to that entity. And so that expense working into your thing
There's quite a bit of the parts that are worked into that plan are going to be extrapolated out into.
Sure, but I mean, so let's take me. Use me as an example. So I want to extend a water line. So my advice right off the bat is, whether it's me or somebody else coming to you and saying, first of all, we can't do like Kitsap Housing did, where they went off and did their own plan and then come to the port. Can't go that way. You got to go the other way, where the port knows ahead of time what's coming down the pike, whether it's even feasible, because we've determined a lot by the numbers. All our numbers in our comprehensive plan, water plan, were wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
more than I thought. I mean, I knew there was some issues, but I didn't realize the issues.
That's where some of this non-billables coming into play.
Right.
Yeah.
We had to rework the modeling because it wasn't complete work.
Because forever and ever and ever,
From our previous engineer.
forever and ever and ever, I've always operated that you had 65 gallons a minute. When he told me what was going on, and like, oh, that's why I can't make that reserve work out well on the tank. You know, in other words, I couldn't figure out. It just wasn't making sense. And the Department of Health has these calculations, how you determine what the reserve is for your fire flow and all this. And I could not make your numbers make sense. But I had to live with it. And so it's one of those aggravation factors, because, you know, you and I have the 20 years past. And so it's like, oh, if I only knew then what I know now, I would have done it slightly differently. But anyway, all I'm saying is those agreements and extending, what I recommend is that I or any other developer come to you and say, okay, this is the plan, then begin the process. And start, how do I say it? Because we don't know if anything's going to happen from here on forward with anybody. And since it's not really a billable service you can bill out, and because you're tight as you can be, you really can only work on projects that really come to the doorstep and say, okay, we need to work it. It adds time at the front end, and us developers are going to, you know, go nuts. But if you explain it and say, you know, you only have so much funds, and you're trying to work the policy. And again, I haven't covered this with Travis, but what I'm recommending is that you kind of build the policy as you go, not try to get the whole thing wrapped up before you start the next extension agreement, as an example. But you need your attorney to say different things, because, for example, there are contracts that we had with our water system users, but the port never had any contracts.
Right.
And that's, you know, that whole issue. So talking just from extension agreement, that type of thing, I would say hold off a little bit and just let the developers know that, you know, because we know who they are right at the moment. Say, hey, if you're planning to do this, it's going to take us a little longer, and, you know, give us another 60 days in the planning process, because we'll have to tailor the agreement, you know, more and more general to a particular, like myself or others. But I see, if you try to develop the extension agreement now, you're spending money now, and you don't know. I mean, what if the economy goes totally down the chute? Then, you know, stops. You spent $10,000 on attorney fees trying to get a contract, and it's probably a lot more, because a contract to me looks every bit as exciting and detailed is the one, you know, we did for our sales agreement. You know where that ended up. I don't think it'd be that bad, but you know what I'm getting at.
Have you seen preliminary ones? The preliminary contract?
I have,
Oh,
well,
for which one? The housing kits?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should have a final one next week.
Okay.
does it conceptually understand what I'm saying? It's not,
Okay.
you'd like to have all your policies in place,
Sure.
okay? But because we didn't follow policies over the years, we're kind of behind the eight ball.
Right.
You're not going to get current overnight. And if you try to, you're driving yourself into the hole financially,
Right.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I agree.
And if you can do this more like, like a little bit each year as far as the general policies, and then more specifically the extension agreements as they come, I think financially that'll keep the port, better with the water system. Okay, now
I was just thinking how much cheaper it is for you to rewrite our policy than it would be for council.
People say, well, why don't you just run the water system? I said, you've crossed that bridge. Okay, it's done, it's gone, it's over. As you don't say.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna. It's kind of like what if.
Yeah.
No, let's move on.
Yeah. Let's not go there.
Okay.
Okay, so then back to this thing on the last page. So that 27.5 is the capital facilities end of life. This isn't capital facilities that builders or developers put in or anything like that. This is what you have, what its life is, extrapolated over time, and saying, okay, I got to replace this, or I got to do this. I mean, you may luck out and never have to replace the water line or the valve in 100 years, okay? I would have never thought that you would have had to replace the meter here that's only a few years old.
Right.
Okay? And you know the rest of the story with that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So you're saying that we would need at least 27.5
basically
in the bank.
$20 per user of the rate. You need $20.59 per month per user to start building that fund at current rates. And that does nothing to take care of the past. And if you have something like the tank, it's past half its life right now. If we're starting this right now, we have this other half, which is what your capital facilities connection fees and all that was to take care of.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see how we got into, because of different things not happening. So okay, I'll leave it at that. Start with that. Next question. What can I tell you? I mean, you got a cheaper source for your water system maintenance, satellite management.
Say that again, Jeff?
You got a cheaper source for your management.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, the big increase, there's I'm trying to think, so take the maintenance and office operations, non-payroll, the 15%.
Which one are you on? Oh, here.
I told him to be tied up.
17,940.
No. The maintenance, administrative office operations.
Okay.
Right in the middle of page 23. So it's like 4,000 higher or 3,000 some odd. The factors that drove that were the increasing the accountant, and the getting the module in for the utility module that's part of Springboard was never accounted for.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
I sure like where we're going with this, though.
Yeah, that's part of the 8,000 and change we paid Springbrook every year. Is that utility model?
But you can see, like we had last year 6,200 for the legal, for the professionals. But this year we're at 13 because I don't know where. There's depending on. In other words,
we don't know.
You can control. you don't know the exact number, but you can control by policy which way you decide to approach, like I was talking about the extension agreement.
Yeah.
If you decide to delay, but work with the developers and say, hey, we need an extra 45 or 60 days on the front end, whatever you think.
Yeah.
That buys you time, and then you know you got something, and it allows you to make agreements. And if they, you know, for example, if I was running it, I would say that, you know, if they decide to bow out, you know, there's some fee for it because you extended. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Those are all being worked into the contract.
Pardon me, just
There is not.
You know, I'll have to get back to you. I'm in the middle of the meeting.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back to you. I'm in the middle of the meeting. Okay, thanks. Bye. What else? But at least you can see what's happening.
Well, we have some zeros because we of the unknown.
We didn't even know last year. And the loan, like there was no loan, but like also another thing that's going to add to this is this loan that you get from the health department.
Yeah.
And it was what I've heard Travis tell me Friday, finally explained it out as far as the breakdown of how, what's forgivable and all this kind of thing. It's totally different than what you guys, the board told you know.
What we were told.
What was presented a year and a half ago.
Yeah, they changed how much is actually refundable or forgivable. It's not 50%.
What is
It's
it?
only 41%. So
Okay.
Okay, I've told Travis has this pretty much in his brain, and I have it in my brain. Okay, so you obviously you got under the well project, you got some more expenses. Okay, because now you're gonna, when you take that loan, you're basically gonna be paying 5,000 a month or 5,000 a year. I mean. Okay, that it should allow you to increase capacity and do these different things. Travis, I believe, understands what I understand. That if engineering can't give us a certain capacity growth, it dies.
Sure.
It stops right there. And we beat up on the engineer until he cries uncle. Because I am hoping that he's not married to his whatever it is. Okay? Because I'm hoping that they see and understand the port's budget and what they got to do. But I think Travis understands. I've heard him spit it back at me that and I think so. He understands that if you don't get with what you're doing with engineering, if you don't get a certain number of users, you can't do it.
it's been plainly spoken to our engineer at least half a dozen times.
Yeah.
That is really where we have to be. Otherwise, we have to look at other avenues for the project.
As an example,
it feels like it's understood, and we will know the fruits of that.
Yeah.
soon.
I'm hoping with all hope that he's got it figured out. Okay. But there's, my purchasing side of me tells me, be on your toes.
So if we discontinue his service, we stop the project, then what?
Yeah, there's plans. I never leave you hanging.
Okay.
I have another plan.
What's your thoughts on that one?
Well,
Or do you even want to go there right now?
I'll go there from the big picture point of view. The big picture point of view is that while it precludes some development higher up in the plat, there's ways to take my system and drive it ahead to give capacity.
We've already discussed this and understand exactly what would need to be done to increase the capacity.
So
by itself.
Right. So for example, and see, now that I understand what the port was working with only 50 gallons a minute, all of a sudden I feel equal. Because mine's 50 gallons a minute. It's only 65-50. But now it's 50-50.
Okay.
Anyway, from that point, there's a way, engineering-wise, Dan Budsberg shared with me years ago. I got the chart. There's couldn't be some tweaking because there's different standards they're applying. But the one saving grace is you have 2 wells and you have a fire flow capacity. So given that, there's a way we can tweak my system by putting some bladder tanks inside, which I have room. And I keep saying you have room in the well house that we could probably, what did I? Oh, I came up came up with two different numbers. Depending on if you leave the pump the way it is, I think we can get to like what was it? We can get like almost
All with the just keeping your 5 horsepower pump.
Yeah,
that was about 47.
well, as it is right now, which we have.
Yeah, 20, without adding a single.
We have 21 on it, 22 on it right now. But if you add generically speaking, it's not uniformly. It's curves. There's a curve on it, but for every bladder tank I add, you can add about 10 more users.
Now, what he told you, is that still applicable?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know because I haven't compared it to the state's code.
Okay.
But I mean,
because that's been a while.
Yes.
That he's okay.
Well, no, it's been since 2015.
Okay.
So it's not that long.
Okay.
I mean, years, yes. I'm talking about mine.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is really years.
Right.
Things die hard.
I'm getting a little confused about what you mean yours. Yeah, okay.
So you're saying you could, if that's doable, then we could add 25 more roughly to the system?
Well, first, as it sits right now, you can add at least 20 more. At least 20. They have to be from 170 in elevation or lower, but you can add that many more. So you could extend my line like on block 40, which you don't know, but there's 2 blocks where ceilings have property. You could extend my 4-inch, change it to an 8-inch, so that later on it can be updated, and run a line down off my 4-inch, and we just drive 2 different blocks of basically 20 more houses.
Okay.
And so, and as it sits. If you add
so you're saying with what you're talking about,
right? No more. There's some engineering that the Department of Health has to approve it, all those kind of things. But there's no more. Yeah, it should be less than a few grand on engineering. It's all there.
Okay.
Yeah, and the construction aspect.
The only thing that would have to be done is an extension. All they have to be is an extension agreement.
Yeah. Okay.
And that goes back to.
Okay, but hold this thought.
Yeah.
You know the full impact. So you can add 20. Doing nothing. For every more bladder tank, which we have room for at least 5 more, you can add another 10 users, as long as they're below 170.
Okay.
In elevation. Okay.
And those bladder tanks would be in the pump house,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like you have here.
Yeah.
But you don't use the. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, there's no bladder tanks left.
No.
Okay, they're gone.
Yeah.
But like you used to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were not hooked up to the system.
Okay.
They've been sitting there idle since the tank was put in.
Right.
Right.
Didn't need them.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm saying, and you'd have to be careful because they have a life too, and
sure.
This is like 15 years.
Right.
And but since I put that dehumidifier in yours, that's stopped the whole corrosion problem on pipes and bladder tanks.
Oh, I never thought about that. I didn't
By
get
just
that to mind. That's great.
I mean, you use $8 more power a month, but you're saving thousands on replacing hardware. I just wish I knew that years ago.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So that's what's happening up there.
Okay.
So I'm saying you can add 20, do nothing. I mean, there's some engineering, Department of Health, but that's it. As the well sits right now. No problems with capacity, no problems, period. Okay? You can add 10 more by adding another bladder tank. You have to go through engineering and all those kind of things.
Isn't your water system plan expired?
Huh?
Isn't your water system plan expired?
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah, but
you're gonna have to.
You'd have to. That would be an update.
Yeah, it would have to be an update to the plan because I'm expired.
Right.
And it's yours now.
Yes. But we kind of need to do that.
No, I get it. And that's something we need to work in. That is a have to work in.
Yes.
Versus the extension agreement.
Yes.
But where I'm going is, engineering wise, is you can add doing that. If you decide, let's just say the pump goes out, I would highly recommend then going to the 15 horse and the 3-inch drop line, not the 2-inch that's in there right now. Because that would allow you, I think I took the whole system up to 216 without any of this stuff. And we could figure out a way to do the booster in a crude way to get the upper part. But I mean, I could do it literally for below 170, I could do 200 and some users below 170 off that system. So does that give you hope?
Well, yeah, that makes
there's options beyond what hopefully what he designs, because that solves the problem of servicing above 170 in elevation and lots up on the flat.
You're talking.
What's his timeline so far? What's he gonna get that to?
You're saying 200 total. Minus what we already serviced, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding.
No, but you're right now. You're technically at 150 something. Well, actually 145 is where you should be.
Yeah.
Or thereabouts, 147, something like that. Between the Allyn system and Gary system and the port system. Yeah. So does that give you some idea that there's some outs?
Yes.
We're not like stuck and then protracted glide slope.
That's great.
But if they can do what I think they can do, with hopefully in the budget we do, then that whole problem gradually disappears anyway. Because then that pump pumps into yours, this one stops, and then there's the three layers. With filling the tank, there's your 140 and below, pushing through one valve, or depending on how they do it, either through one or two different valves. The my group, center group, and then the high group. Or they do the high and my group together, but I'm concerned about that because the lowest point of my high group really starts to put some pressure on them.
How deep is your well? How deep is our
same
well?
depth as yours. We're the same exactly level, but yours is 288 or 248, something like that, and mine's 397. But we're just higher on the hill.
Yeah. Okay.
But we're in the same aquifer, and that's why we wanted to do that inspection back when. Yes.
Okay.
Anyway.
We are where we're at right now.
Yes.
Okay.
We are where we're at.
Okay.
It's an entertaining thought from time to time. Okay, so the other thing. Okay, so any questions with regards to the water expenses and revenues?
I've just had a quick question. So how are we doing with the acquiring Travis, the users from Jeff's system with the billing? Everybody's good.
They've been being billed since we purchased the system.
Yeah, and no people aren't asking a lot of questions, or
there's a few questions in the first month.
That's what I was wondering, but they're good with it.
I mean,
you're not getting any real negative.
No,
I was curious on that.
We've got one that's unhappy about paying water, but people sometimes are unhappy about paying anything.
And then, well, just while we're on that, and some of the people who are behind on the system that we've had, where people you're working with them, and
some of them we're working with, some of them haven't really returned our calls, so we literally have to do the shut off scenario.
Okay.
Just trying to find a minute and continuing to run the regular business of the port to get those out.
All right. The revenues take into consideration that somewhere between 8 and 10% you'll have trouble with. But usually by the next year, you recovered one of two ways. One is either they do finally pay up one way or another, or they sell and then you collect at that point the outstanding balance.
When you were running your system, Jeff, did you on and off over period of time, you had to shut people's water off?
I never had to shut anybody off, partially because of COVID, partially because there's some dirt. But what I had was the problem, and that's why I had the water system with the road maintenance, because we didn't get road maintenance fees paid back when, and then we say, well, here's the water. But I don't know which one he's referring to. There's one tenant or one owner of a house. I know the house. It's a gray house. That's just has trouble with it.
Okay.
No matter what it is.
Okay. Anyway, thank you.
So any questions of other income or expense? No. And then I'll give you a general statement.
Yeah, I think I'm all right. I appreciate this. This kind of gives me the timeline of future costs and what
I
this
would like,
costs. And
I would like the port to adopt that eventually,
this one?
or something like
Okay.
it.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I'm not saying that one, but I'm saying something, meaning that the port, you can't just drop it on the rates, okay? But the port has to have the objective that, okay, long term, they're gonna start working in, maybe it's a couple dollars each year, you know, to the monthly rate, that you're gonna put some, you know, to tie it to the capital facilities, the end of life replacement. I mean, you got 15 more years in that tank.
Right.
I mean, it's not that it won't last 25 or more. It just, you know, you have insurance, you have different liabilities, and so you have to do certain things.
In the water tank, maybe you know this, I'm not sure. Is it just you'd have to replace the bladder?
I'm thinking in that one, yeah.
Because I think the rest would be fine. I don't,
Yeah.
but
It's
just,
all above ground steel, so
yeah.
it's just seeing
And-
the normal amount of weathering on the outside.
And
And
it's-
then when they replace the bladder, they would inspect the inside
Mhm.
and then it'd give it another life expectancy on there.
You know, there might be something they have to do coating wise or something, you know, because they might find a rust on the inside of the steel or something like that. I mean, to me, it shouldn't be a whole fledged rebuild. It should, but part of the problem is, okay, you know, what happens when something goes wrong?
True.
And so you don't know how that's all going to work out. And so we can debate whether the number should be this or this, meaning, you know, as he has time, which he has none,
Mm-hmm.
we can run some of these things out that I don't know, that, you know, the bladder, what's it cost to replace, and just have that known, and at least, you know. But what I would recommend is saying, okay, try to leave the rates where they are, but realizing, you know, if we can't get this adjusted, that you're gonna have to raise them a couple bucks and start phasing this in. I believe the rates will come down somewhat once we understand where the labor is and can maybe better use the labor. I think some of it come down. We can look at, you know, maybe different approaches on the billing and what have you in time. I think some of the rates could come down with respect to professional services, not having as many or what have you, or having a wider spread, you know, of users to spread it across.
Well, I know I'm not to depend on grants, but that's something that I think we should continue to go for.
Yes, my only concern with that is that it makes you the system codependent.
Well, agreed, but just to even get over.
I know, I've had the discussion with the county.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can't and shouldn't or what have you, but if you're running this,
I agree.
At first, in other words, to me, it's like you should almost have this like the 10 commandments of
Sure.
the port water system.
Well, and I get that.
And this is what you want to do. And then, okay, well, every now and then I have to kill somebody because of a war or whatever, you know. Yeah. They're attacking my house, you know, that kind of thing. So,
okay.
So, in summary, a more interesting thought that came to mind, and maybe not everybody can appreciate this, but when you look at the whole big picture, what we've been through the last 4 or 5 years, the port, if you consider all the things that happened to you legally over the last 4 or 5 years, you consider all the things that happened in the water system, all the different weird things in contracts, and all the bad policies not followed, and all the refunds, and all the different things considered, the system would be fine if one party would take care of their obligation.
Okay. I get that.
Okay. One last question on that is, what is our basic rate that we charge for our customers?
$59.95.
59.
$59.95, and then
Okay.
they pay on the amount of usage.
Okay.
On a sliding scale.
So if we went up to, okay, that's interesting. Anyway, you know,
And then commercial, which we have very few of, is charged
Okay. Okay, sorry about the technical difficulties for those that are online. So Jeff, go ahead and wrap up your comment, and then I think is that pretty much it?
You were asking a question about what your ERU.
Oh, yes.
And
currently with ours is at 168.
In the plan, it's 168, but you got two factors. One is what we call maximum daily or peak hour demand and maximum daily. And your usage, the port's usage is double with 9 months. Meaning you have to compensate for 400 and some odd gallons, and I only have to compensate for a little under 300.
The tank. Right.
No. I'm saying your maximum monthly demand per user is the calculations between that and peak hour demand, which is another thing that determines tank and all this kind of thing, reserve, factors out to where my system could provide to twice as many users per gallon that your system could.
Okay.
Okay. That's another issue that we want to wrap up someday.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one issue. The gallons for the ERU issue. My best estimate using what we had numbers and working with the sewer and all this is it averages probably closer to 150, 140 gallons per day that we use on average. We have been, and I believe the port, when I compared a few of the ports and using theirs against the sewer, we've got as low as it looked like 130s, 120s. Obviously, the lower that number, the more users. But then the other factor is peak hour demand. And see, that's where I couldn't figure out how they were getting, and that's part of this gallons per minute.
Okay.
So technically, the plan that you have says you can have a peak hour 182. You do not have that peak. Because you're not 65, you're 50.
Yeah.
So it'll be something less.
Well, when I posed that question to the engineer, he said it is possible to have 65 gallons per minute from the 50 gallons. Depending on because of the tank. And he's going to provide the answers.
I'm reminded, all you have to do is put a isolation transformer on the pump and then jump the voltage 10%. And, as long as you got the capacity in the wire, and then you can increase the capacity by 10%.
That's one.
Yeah. So in other words, you just put a little bit more voltage at it. That's harder on the pumps, but as long as you're keeping them cool, they'll hang together.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Think we're done. Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.